Welcome back to Sports Today. Jake Seeley, Corey Parson, Matt Medica. That sounded right to you, Corey?
What's up, Jake?
Sound good? Do I sound all right? Do I sound good?
No, you sound good. You sound good, Jake. You sound good talking over Bruno Mars. I wonder if
Okay,
Dr.
I just
A is a
wanna make
Bruno.
sure.
I wonder if Dr. A is a Bruno Mars guy.
Oh, you can ask him.
I
because
am
we
a
got
Bruno
Dr. A
Mars
from
guy.
this. Dr. A of Inside Injuries joins us now. There's a lot of spring training baseball news and injuries that we want to get into, and we just found out he is a Bruno Mars fan. So the first one, the biggest one besides liking Bruno Mars, let me ask you, Dr. A, this is one that we didn't see coming out anywhere, and we're still a little confused of what exactly the procedure means, what the effect is afterwards. Yuli Gurriel had his hamate bone hook, or hamate hook. Let's just explain, what the heck did he have happen?
So the hamate bone is a bone in your wrist, and there's a little bit of a projection off of that bone that's called the hook of mate. And a lot of times it can get inflamed. There's some spurring that can develop on it. Also, a lot of times there's a hairline fracture at the base of the hamate. And so most likely that is what happened, and he was just sort of letting it heal and play through it. But when it gets to the point where it's too painful and affecting his play, you just remove that hook. There's really no purpose to that hook except for protection when someone falls on their wrist a little bit. But the good news is it should be fine. It heals fine. It should really prevent him from having these small little minor times of inflammation when he did have.
Sounds like we lost Dr. A.
Oh, we lost Dr. A. Technical difficulties.
So
the magic of technology.
Yeah, so talking to Dr. A about Yuli Gurriel, the hamate bone, the hook. Now, I find it interesting. He said the purpose of the hook is so if you fall and I guess you put your wrist down, it protects. But like that, how did that make bone? Like, how did your bone know? You know what I'm saying? It's amazing, the human body. So, but that is an injury that we do see from a lot of baseball players. Do we have Doc back?
I wanted to ask him.
I am back.
Okay, we got good, and you sound crystal clear.
Where did I drop off? Because I kept talking.
We heard about the hamate bone hook and how if you fall, the bone is there to protect, to help break the fall, and then after that you started cutting out a little bit. But so we didn't really get a diagnosis on when the young man could be ready for action, and will this affect his ability to swing a bat? Okay,
it should not fine. The fracture, if it likely was a small hairline fracture, they just removed it. The surgery goes really well. The success rate is very well. Second week of April, expect him to be at peak health.
Second week in April. Okay, cool.
Well, Doc, I got a question about the hamate bone. I know we've become familiar with this injury in baseball. Now, once it's gone, we don't have to worry about it. Like it's not something that comes back or anything. It's just that's it. It's over with, and you don't need it, right?
Correct. It's one of these vestigial parts of the human body. I used a SAT word on you guys. It's it's a non-useful piece of the human body, with the exception of just protection on a fall. But really, there's no use for it. Yes, correct. Now, there could be others that affect Gurriel's wrist, but this thing, once it's removed, there shouldn't be no issues with it after that.
Okay. Well, I'll ask. Let's go to the pitching. Let's go to the pitching mound here. Jacob deGrom popped up with some lower back injuries, I believe. What's the status on him? Is there any concern we should have?
Yeah, so MRI showed no disc injury, so that's great news for him. It's one back injury, not really that much of an issue. The main issues you got to worry about him, obviously, are all the other injuries that he suffered. Rotator cuff tendonitis, forearm strain, ulnar nerve surgery back into the 2016 season. So obviously, you should expect him to have some sort of time missed this year, toward the end of the year probably. But for this particular back injury, 2 weeks, he should be good to go. There's no disc, sort of no disc abnormality. He will be at elevated injury risk to start the season, but he will likely start the season at peak health. So you just got to look out his durability toward the end of the season.
All right, let's talk about another one that doesn't seem like such a big injury, but same team, Jay Bruce, dealing with plantar fasciitis. But we've seen this in other sports, especially basketball, where this is something that can linger because as long as, for what I understand, the only thing that heals it is rest. So if he's already out there on the field and playing with this, is this something that could bother him the entire season and potentially a Philly?
Yeah, so it's a grade 1 foot injury, plantar fasciitis. It's not torn. Very easy sort of to manage in that sense. So even though he's felt it's bothered him early in spring training, they should be able to pain manage it and let him play through the rest of the year. Again, into the second half of the season, if this thing starts to get even more inflamed, he's an outfielder, tends to cover a lot of ground. So plantar fasciitis injuries occur in outfielders more than any other position on the field. And so from a health performance factor, he should be at peak health. However, he'll remain at elevated injury risk.
Oh, wow. Doc, I've struggled with plantar myself from time to time. It's very painful in my feet, but thank God I'm not dealing with it right now, Dr. A.
Hey.
Well, as Corey, you got to cover a lot of ground in your
This is true, Doc. I'm trying to get it any way I can. Let me ask you this, Doc. Now, I got a couple questions for you. And first, I want to start with this one. The New York Mets and their medical staff, whatever, it's been a joke. We were wondering earlier this week on the show, would you like to be the New York Mets team doctor?
I would like to be the New York Mets and any team's injury analytics advisor. How about that?
I like it. That's
a good right there.
I think Doc's got a future in politics.
I think so too. You notice he didn't say. See, he wants to keep his business. Yes. He don't want to work for the Mets. He want to keep his. All right,
and you get paid handsomely as an advisor as well.
Doc, Matt Harvey, what's the deal? Listen, this thing with this guy sucks now. Now the rib, I think the rib grows back. If I'm not with the thoracic outlet, whatever, I think the rib grows back. So now there's been rumored that players, once they get their second, the further you removed away from the actual injury, the better the player gets. Can we expect improvement from Matt Harvey, or is there too much going on with him?
Well, all right. So he doesn't have any current injuries, so that's a very big win. Okay, so he doesn't have any current injuries. Obviously, you're right. Thoracic outlet surgery in July of 2016. Neck stiffness last year in spring training. He had stress reaction in his right throwing shoulder. Returned in August. He missed over 2 months. He will miss time this year. Probably 45 days sometime this year. He will miss some time. Again, his injury risk is high. No matter what it is, even after all of this healing, his injury risk is high. It's at 30%, likely going down to 25%, but that's still pretty high, in terms of injury risk. From a healing standpoint, he should be completely healed. The question is, how much do all these other injuries affect his ability on the field? He will not get to peak health, most likely, when we report all these metrics in the beginning of the season and then in the draft, et cetera. But it will be likely a high injury risk for him and above average predictive performance. So I don't know what to tell fantasy owners about Matt Harvey, but the very fact that he's going to miss 30 to 45 games this year in our prediction is pretty high.
Hey, Doc, let's stay with the pitchers. And I know I talked about him a couple of weeks ago, but he's on the list again, so I feel I have the opportunity to do it one more time. Danny Salazar, the shoulder was sore. He's a little behind schedule, but should that be an issue come opening day?
So you always got to worry about a throwing shoulder of a right-handed pitcher when it talks about rotator cuff inflammation. It's a grade 1. It's really what that means when you see rotator cuff inflammation. It's basically tendonitis. It's grade 1 tendonitis. It's a grade 1 shoulder. It's not 2, 3, so that's good. There's no tear. and he's resumed throwing. Our optimal recovery time on a grade 1 is 2 weeks. So, the very fact that he's still throwing and he's not feeling too much discomfort, just a little bit behind the other pitchers, is good news for him. The only issue is that he's had a repetitive shoulder injury in the throwing shoulder last year. He had an elbow and shoulder in the throwing arm. So, he will heal from this. He'll be back to peak health starting before opening day and probably for spring training. However, his injury risk is currently at 24% high, likely will drop to elevated, which is good, around 17, 18%. So again, this is a guy that by July and August, he's going to put a lot of stress on that throwing shoulder, and you'll expect him to miss a week or two here and there, etc. So, that's going to be sort of his status quo from here on out. But he will be at peak health, just an elevated injury risk.
So okay, look, he is not a foundation arm. He's one of these upside arms, later in the middle of draft.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm not going to have many, but I want to have some.
All right, here we go right there.
Yeah, I mean, if he works for you, he'll be. I mean, he's at peak health, right? So that's a perfect sort of secondary, tertiary, third order arm that you pick up on your roster. He will pitch really, really well when he's at peak health. It's just after 3 or 4 sessions or starts, there is a chance of him being on the DL.
All right, that is Dr. A from Inside Injuries, InsideInjuries.com. Make sure you keep up with them. They got a lot of great products over there as we move closer to, obviously, back to the football and then NCAA tournament. So a lot of things going on in Inside Injuries. Make sure that you check it out. Dr. A, thanks a lot, my man.
Okay, guys, have a good day.
Thank you. That is Dr. A, the great Dr. A, InsideInjuries.com. We come